Ukraine has developed a new weapon system, the Trident laser, in cooperation with Western technology companies. The Trident laser is a high-energy laser system that directs concentrated light energy at the target and destroys it with heat or plasma effect. It is known to be used against various threats, such as aircraft, drones, rockets, artillery shells, and light armored vehicles. The Trident laser is low-cost and mobile, allowing it to be rapidly deployed for tactical missions in field conditions. It uses high-capacity fiber laser modules, which consist of laser diodes manufactured in the United States and Europe. These modules generate a laser cannon, which is focused on the target thanks to sophisticated optical equipment. The Trident laser's effective range is around 2 to 3 kilometers, depending on weather conditions and the type of target. The Trident laser's target tracking system is integrated with Ukraine's Delta network of digital maps and sensors, air defense radars, unmanned reconnaissance vehicles, and ground observation posts. This speed and integration could complicate Russia's attack strategy, as laser fire consumes only electrical energy, making it an economic weapon. However, the high energy requirement and atmospheric conditions like rain, fog, and snow reduce the range of the laser. Ukrainian engineers have announced that they will deploy the Trident laser on a slow-moving vehicle on a mobile platform, possibly mounted on an armored truck, to fire while stationary and evade Russian counter-battery fire. This is because the Russian military tries to destroy fixed air defense systems. Ukraine is developing a Trident laser, a laser-directed energy weapon that can detect and intercept targets at the speed of light. The weapon is designed to shoot down drones, missiles, airplanes, and even satellites, with some claims it can hit targets the size of a British pound coin. The UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has hinted that Dragonfire will be unveiled in 2027, but it is not yet operational. If operational, it could pave the way for shooting down drones, a low-cost alternative to missiles, and have an operational cost of less than 10 pounds per shot. The Russian military is taking the Trident laser seriously, with Moscow researching special smoke bombs and laser counter-optical measures. The deployment of the Trident laser on the front line in Kyiv is a nightmare scenario for Russia, as it could weaken Putin's tactic of pressuring cities with intense rocket fire. Western defense companies, particularly the United States and the UK, seem to be helping develop the technology. It remains to be seen which side will gain more in the war, but the Trident laser embodies Ukraine's message to Russia. The Trident laser, a weapon of great interest in the Ukraine-Russia war, offers advantages such as cost advantage, unlimited ammunition, and silent operation. However, it has complex maintenance and power supply requirements. Ukraine may be developing container generators integrated with solar or wind energy due to a shortage of natural gas or fossil fuels. The Trident laser could disrupt Russia's drone attack strategy and be cheaper and faster to fire than systems like the S-300 or Panzer. This logistical advantage could lead to a laser arms race, with Russia potentially developing counter-laser measures. Ukraine has built at least a dozen prototypes, some of which have been successful in test firing. If Russian officials take Ukraine seriously, they may accelerate the transfer of laser technology to Ukraine. The Trident laser suggests that Ukraine may be one of the first nations to acquire missiles and artillery from the West, as well as the latest laser technologies, and test them in the field. This shows how the battlefield is changing with cyber attacks, drone swarms, and laser interceptors. If successful, laser weapons will spread rapidly around the world. The technology of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, has the potential to be a significant obstacle to Russia's drone and rocket attacks. Ukraine's use of drones has proven a vital tool in stopping the Russians, with the Ukrainian Navy experimenting with the development and use of uncrewed air and naval strike systems. The Russian side has recognized Ukraine's superiority in the competition over both drones and naval drones, while Kyiv has focused its military strategy and offensive posture entirely on drones and naval drones. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense unveiled the Poseidon unmanned aerial vehicle complex, which has the potential to become a nightmare for Russian forces. The state-of-the-art Poseidon drone, age 10, Mark III, meets the need for the Ukrainian defense industry and represents a significant step forward in advancing the surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities of the Ukrainian armed forces. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has confirmed the deployment of this powerful unmanned aerial vehicle on the battlefield, marking a significant step forward in advancing the surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities of the Ukrainian armed forces. The Poseidon H-10 Mach 3 drone, developed by Ukraine's Directorate for Weapons and Military Equipment Lifecycle Support, is designed to meet the demands of modern warfare, particularly in contested and challenging operational environments. The drone stands out for its electronic warfare resilience, which allows it to autonomously avoid threats and return safely even if radio frequencies are suppressed. It offers detailed surveillance with 20 times synthetic zoom at night and a thermal camera with 4 times zoom for intelligence gathering. The system consists of 3 unmanned aerial vehicles and 2 control stations optimized for long-range and high-altitude missions. The drone's protective enclosures and training processes ensure its safety in various weather conditions. Poseidon plays a critical role in counterattacks, allowing operators to observe defense lines, identify potential threats, and direct artillery and infantry in time. Its ability to counter electronic warfare capabilities and store target data, return routes, and weather information in its memory increases confidence in war. Ukraine's production of technologies like Poseidon reduces foreign dependency, attracting attention in the global defense market and potentially enabling it to hit critical targets on Russian soil. The Kremlin leadership is concerned about the potential for war to cause political shakeup on the Putin front, as the world has seen a shift towards unmanned vehicles. Ukraine's innovative approach, such as the Poseidon H-10 Mach 3, has strengthened the Ukrainian military's hand with its technological features, durability, and autonomous flight capacity. However, Russia is growing uneasy due to the potential to change the course of the war and the fate of the geography. The Cambrian explosion in drones has forced military institutions worldwide to reconsider their investments in such systems and improve their defenses against massed uncrewed systems in air, land, and sea domains. In March 2024, Ukraine declared that each country had to improve its drone capabilities, based on examples such as the Black Sea oil platforms attack. Ukrainian Sea-Baby unmanned aerial vehicles were observed firing anti-aircraft guns and missiles at Russian helicopters, damaging aircraft and injuring personnel on board. In early January 2025, Ukrainians also made incredible advances in drones, disrupting Russian air defenses, with 3 attacks on Russian air defense systems. The Ukrainian military has made significant strides in the use of air and naval drones, as demonstrated in the Battle of Lipsy. In December, Ukrainian forces carried out the first ground attack on Russian positions near the village of Lipsy using only robotic systems. The operation involved uncrewed ground combat vehicles armed with machine guns and SPV drones, supported by FPV drones. This combination of ground and air reconnaissance and strike. Heavy losses in this series of mistakes. The Russian drone operators who destroyed the North Korean air defense system were likely not familiar with the type of system, leading to friendly fire incidents. Despite these losses, there are reports that the Pyongyang regime is planning to send more troops to Moscow. According to military sources, the Pyongyang regime may soon send 45,000 soldiers for the Russian army, with at least 150 Kin-23 short-range ballistic missiles and more artillery shells to Russia. North Korea is expected to deploy additional forces to Russia's Kursk Oblast, mainly artillery and rocket artillery units. Moscow is also preparing to buy more of these systems. The growing military cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow could strengthen Kim Jong-un's position in relations with the United States and South Korea. If Kim Jong-un faces a sad end after sending more troops to Kursk, he could get closer to President Donald Trump. North Korea's military strategies, such as drone and missile strikes, have backed Pyongyang into a corner, as they cannot afford to spend most of their troops in Russia one day. The only question on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's mind is whether Western military support will continue or not. If military support continues to flow steadily, the Ukrainian army may intensify its strategy in Kursk potentially defeating both Russian and North Korean troops in the region. Ukraine has carried out a mission in Kursk to collect DNA samples and documents from around 25 DPRK soldiers who were eliminated in a drone and artillery attack. The captured documents show that Russian forces have no mercy even for North Korean soldiers fighting for them. The Russian military system continues to use North Korean soldiers on the front lines, even though they do not want to fight. North Korean troops in the conflict with Ukraine are facing a collapse in morale and motivation, leading to potential surprise attacks on their areas. The country's military structure is still debated, but it is believed that Kim Jong-un will continue sending troops to Russia until he gets what he wants. North Korea is one of the most militarized countries in the world, with around 1.2 million armed forces and personnel. However, recent reports suggest that North Korea has shortened its compulsory military service by half. Defectors in the North Korean army have shared critical information about their experiences, including insufficient food, mistreatment, and sleepless winter marches. Some North Korean soldiers have reported that they are stealing food from rural villages and farms, which is not uncommon for North Korean soldiers fighting for Russia in Kursk. This situation is likely to lead to Pyongyang troops deserting from Kursk en masse in the future. The presence of North Korean troops in Kursk is expected to dwindle, and the casualty figures are likely to put Putin and Kim Jong-un in a desperate position. However, the arrival of more Pyongyang troops could challenge Kyiv in certain areas. If Pyongyang continues to provide Moscow with additional troops during the war, Kim Jong-un's move could pose a significant problem, as this gradual influx of manpower could break Ukraine's resilience throughout the war. The Ukrainian military wing must be cautious in this regard, as the Kremlin continues to issue fake military IDs to North Korean soldiers with false information about their legalization in the Russian Federation. Investigators found many inconsistencies in the documents, such as missing a photo, mandatory records, order numbers, and signatures. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia has seen a significant shift in the course of the war. North Korea, which has been in office since 2016, has received its weapon and personal badge on October 10, 2020. Experts believe that the Kremlin has forged thousands of documents to legalize North Korean disguised as vans, bureaucrats, and other nationals living in Russia. This illegal Russian policies are not surprising, as the Kremlin regime expects more from North Korean soldiers than just fighting on the front lines. North Korea's military cooperation goes beyond just providing troop support. Reports indicate that North Korean experts are involved in the production of drones and related technologies at Russian facilities. This technological exchange could boost Russia's drone capabilities, which are becoming an increasingly important component in modern warfare. Additionally, North Korea has supplied more than 3 million artillery shells and missiles to Russia, adding a new dimension to the munitions supply dynamics of the war. South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun said that North Korea is likely to demand advanced nuclear weapons technology from Moscow in exchange for sending troops to Russia in its war against Ukraine. Kim Jong-un also stated that North Korea could use military technology from Russia to take more threatening actions in the Pacific. South Korea has been on alert for weeks about North Korea's troop deployment to Russia and has been providing NATO's allies with intelligence on troop movements. The course of the war between Ukraine and Russia has changed dramatically with the participation of the North Korean army. The Ukrainian army has achieved incredible successes, with over 4,000 North Korean troops eliminated and the Russian army suffering significant losses in Kursk. However, Pyongyang continued to provide Moscow with troops in the future. The North Korean soldiers in the Kursk Oblast faced harsh treatment from Russian commanders, including insults, violence, and inhumane behavior. The language barrier between Russia and North Korea led to indiscriminate attacks, causing casualties for the Russian army. To counter this, the Ukrainian military strategy adopted striking methods, such as increasing drone strikes, which allowed the North Koreans to lose up to 90% of their troops in the first minutes of an attack. North Korean soldiers also used mine terrain, artillery attacks, and other complicating factors to their failure in Kursk. They were advancing on territory with almost no armored vehicles supporting Ukrainian soldiers. American officials claim that when they attack, they do not pause to regroup or retreat, as the Russians often do when they begin to suffer heavy losses. Instead, North Korean soldiers move under heavy fire across littered with mines and follow routes with units of 40 or more soldiers. The Russian lack of infantry is preventing Vladimir Putin, the head of the Moscow regime, from sending North Korean soldiers to different missions. The Ukrainian military has been improving its offensive tactics in response to Moscow's misguided decision to send North Korean soldiers on different missions. These tactics include drone strikes, minefields, artillery strikes, and long-range missile tests. However, the Ukrainian military has received important missiles from the West, such as Army, tactical missile systems, Storm, Shadow, and Scalp. In the Kursk Oblast, the Ukrainian military Storm Shadow missiles targeted a bunker housing North Korean generals, costing around £24 million. The Kremlin knows that its air defense stocks are inadequate, both on the Ukrainian front lines and in the ongoing war. The Russian military's air defense systems are not sufficient to protect North Korean troops against long-range missiles and drones. The North Korean military has been criticized for its air defense systems in Kursk, which have been a significant issue during the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The Russian regime is seeking North Korea's support for its air defense in the region, as the Ukrainian military has suffered. The Zelensky administration has made good use of Western support, and the Ukrainian army has managed to deal heavy to Russia by combining coordination of artillery and armored units with high-mobility artillery, rocket systems, drone strikes, and special forces operations. However, the extent to which Ukraine can push Russia back with this support will depend on the results on the ground. The ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia is a complex and multifaceted issue. With the support of Western allies, Ukraine could push Russia to the brink by 2025, or the two sides could turn to an armistice due to unexpected diplomatic moves. Despite Ukraine's growing military advantage, Russia cannot continue the war indefinitely. As long as the West continues to help, the Ukrainian side may be able to stay in the game longer than Russia. The Ukrainian army has been fighting against two different armies in Kursk Oblast, but they have managed to hold certain parts under control. Recently, the Ukrainian army launched a blitzkrieg in Kursk, attacking Russian and North Korean troops in one of the fiercest clashes in recent days. The Russian Defense Ministry claims that Ukraine deployed 2 mechanized battalions for the offensive. A gas pipeline was allegedly damaged in the Real Sky region as a result of the fighting force. The blitzkrieg in Kursk gave Kyiv more advantages than Zelensky claimed. Ukrainian military authorities announced that it had captured nearly 1,000 Russian soldiers in the southwestern Kursk region since its sudden attack on the border region. The Ukrainian forces also increased the exchange fund, which referred to the reserves of Russian prisoners of war, which they hope to exchange for their own captured soldiers. The third blitzkrieg in Kursk is expected to continue, as the territory it occupies inside Russia will be an important bargaining chip in future peace talks. The conflict highlights the complex challenges facing Ukraine with the Kursk Oblast concepts, such as defending its sovereignty while balancing limited resources, international support, and the heavy psychological legal cost of war. The Ukrainian offensive in the Kursk region of Russia was initially celebrated as a major victory, but cracks in the strategy began to appear. Russia responded with overwhelming force, deploying 50,000 additional troops, including 12,000 North Korean troops, under a controversial agreement. By October, they had retaken about half of the territory captured by Ukraine, effectively halting the operation. The primary limitation of the Kursk offensive was that it failed to achieve its main objective to force Russia to shift its focus and resources away from Donbass. Despite the attack on its territory, Russia continued its offensive in eastern Ukraine and advanced in critical areas. The pressure on already weakened Ukrainian resources was felt even more acutely as troops and equipment were diverted to Kursk, and other vital fronts became more vulnerable as the campaign came to an end. This questioning process culminated in the second wave of attacks on the Kursk Oblast on January 5, 2025. Ukraine launched its second offensive in the Kursk region of Russia, emphasizing its commitment to keep pressure on Moscow. The offensive focused on combining long-range missile strikes, targeting Russian logistics, with precision company-level ground attacks aimed at seizing key areas and minimizing direct clashes with heavily fortified Russian positions. However, the broader strategic impact of the offensive was limited. Russia responded with characteristic speed, deploying reinforcements and launching counterattacks to stabilize the front lines supported by mechanized units, artillery, and solid defensive positions. Both sides were likely to suffer heavy casualties, and what initially looked like a bold move was likely to turn into another tough, resource-intensive struggle. The Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement between North Korea and Russia, signed on July 19, 2024, was aimed at instilling fear in the world. The agreement, which includes provisions for joint activities to strengthen defense capabilities and tactical and strategic cooperation, aims at global strategic stability and a new just and equal international order. North Korea's nuclear capability could exponentially increase if provisions for the exchange of military technology were implemented. The agreement also includes commitments to consultations and mutual cooperation on issues affecting common interests and security at the UN. Russian President Vladimir Putin emphasized the need to reconsider UN sanctions against North Korea and urged the United States to resume negotiations with North Korea and other interested states. The agreement re-established Russia as a key security player in Northeast Asia and reflected the influence of the former Soviet Union. The newly signed 24-year treaty between Russia and North Korea extends beyond mutual defense to include cooperation in trade, investment, science, technology, and the fight against terrorism. It also promotes stronger ties in sectors such as agriculture, education, health, sports, culture, and technology. Both Russia and North Korea downplay the disappearance of their soldiers in Kursk, viewing them as cannon fodder. However, if the Ukrainian army establishes complete dominance in Kursk, the Pyongyang-Moscow partnership could be deeply shaken. The Ukrainian Special Forces Command has announced that North Korean troops are slowly withdrawing after suffering heavy losses in the course. An official commanding the 1st Combat Diver Battalion of the Ukrainian Special Operations Command confirmed that he had observed a noticeable change about 2 weeks ago when the North withdrew from the front line. The remaining North Korean troops are still there, training or waiting for reinforcements. The Special Operations Command emphasized that the North Korean troops left behind in Kursk acted differently compared to the Russian forces, suggesting they were more disciplined, had extraordinary morale, determination, and brainwashed. However, it is important to note that the North Koreans were described as better equipped than many Russian soldiers, but lacked armor, relying on foot movement and improvised means of transportation. The Ukrainian side prefers to continue its military operation in the Kursk Oblast, analyzing every possibility and risk factor, exacerbated by language barriers. The Ukrainian F-16 jets are somewhat old, but include MRAM and Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, which are dependable and easily obtained from friends of Ukraine. As more F-16s are deployed, their mission range should change, as they can be assigned to strike more difficult and sophisticated targets, such as sophisticated air defense installations and Russian fighter planes. Finnish researcher Johnny Eskola believes that the jets will be used for objectives outside of air defense. Western and Ukrainian authorities are arming the F-16s with sophisticated systems to prepare them for more fierce combat. The U.S. Air Force has helped maximize the electronic warfare systems on F-16 Viper aircraft before the first batch of fighters arrived for the Ukrainian Air Force. Future developments for these combat planes should provide notable improvements for the F-16 fighter planes assigned to the Ukrainian Army. Russia may find great difficulty in this situation, as the advantage the Ukrainian gains in terms of air power will significantly limit the paths of Russian invasion. To counter this, the Ukrainian side is getting ready to add Mirage fighter jets in addition to F-16s to its Air Force fleet. The French Mirage 2005 F fighter planes are expected to be sent to Ukraine by the Paris government deliveries, starting in the first quarter of 2025. The Russian Air Force's poor performance in the Gulf War relative to the U.S. has been attributed to high-quality Russian Soviet air defense systems. Russia lost 369 aircraft and 329 helicopters during the invasion of Ukraine, revealing uncertainties in their performance. 10% of Russia's fleet had been lost after over 2 years of conflict in Ukraine against the Ukrainian forces. Ukraine has made some achievements, such as intercepting at least 2 Russian A-50 mainstay command and control planes. However, 3 of the 7 Russian A-50s claims Ukrainian intelligence are under maintenance and upgrade. Russia has over 100 Su-35 fighter jets, more than 100 Su-34 fighter bombers, and 7 A-50 early warning and control aircraft. Ukraine has downed 13 Russian planes in just 2 weeks since October 2022, with the Defense Ministry claiming that in 1 month since October 2022, this is the highest number of aircraft the nation has handled to destroy. Western air defense systems dispatched to Ukraine and Kiev's national drones have eclipsed the Russian Air Force for the Air Force. Understanding Russia's resolve to fight its resources and its capacity to recover losses becomes crucial to determine the path of the conflict. As the first invasion transforms into a battle of attrition, any war of attrition tests social resilience, war, economics, diplomacy, and recovery capacity. The Russian economy is struggling with significant international sanctions since 2014, particularly after 2022. Expert opinion suggests that the current sanctions system virtually binds Russia to stagnation and lowers GDP by 2 to 3% annually. The Ukrainian side is growing its air force, adding F-16 and Mirage fighter jets to its fleet and getting more finance from the West. This could lead to major military and financial crises for Russia, as the Air Force and other components of the Ukrainian army become more westernized. The future of the Kremlin's leader, Vladimir Putin, is uncertain due to the global aid provided to Ukraine. From 2020 to 2024, military aid to Ukraine has reached a total of over 120 to 150 billion US dollars, with half of this amount provided by the United States of America. European countries, Canada, and various international funds have also contributed to the aid. 5 major allies, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Norway, and Canada, have taken action in recent days. However, not all pledge figures are reflected on the ground, and the Kyiv government is pressing Western capitals to speed up the delivery of military hardware. The United States administration has announced plans to deliver hundreds of M1 Abrams tanks, additional high-mobility artillery, rocket systems, and new air defense batteries to Ukraine before the end of Biden's presidential term. The U.S. has provided about $69.2 billion in military aid since Russia's first invasion of Ukraine in 2014. Since August 2021, nearly $28 billion in military aid has been sent to Ukraine from the U.S. Department of Defense stockpiles using Emergency Presidential Withdrawal Authority 55 times. On January 9th, the U.S. Department of Defense announced a $500 million aid package to Ukraine, including air defense missiles, ammunition, and equipment for F-16 fighter jets. The UK is one of the leading donors to Ukraine, along with the US, Germany, and the United Kingdom. The UK has pledged £12.8 billion in aid to Ukraine since February 2022, including £7.8 billion for military assistance. Germany's military support to Ukraine comes in 2 different forms: federal government funds for security capacity building and deliveries from the stocks of the federal armed forces. In 2024 alone, Germany's allocated funds for military assistance to Ukraine and for the security capacity building initiative amount to around €7.10 billion. Germany has contributed €2.9 billion to the European Union's European Peace Fund, with more than 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers receiving military training in Germany. Berlin is expected to continue playing an active role in meeting Ukraine's long-term security needs. Norway has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine, with a 2.7 billion Norwegian kroner, or $242 million aid to strengthen Ukraine's navy and deter Russian threats in the Black Sea. Norway has also allocated €2 billion or 2.1 billion US dollars for military aid to Ukraine in 2025, focusing on strengthening air defense and investing in Ukraine's domestic military production. Canada has attracted attention from Russia by sending National Advanced Surface to Air Missile System air defense systems, providing Ukraine with 4.5 billion US dollars in military aid since the beginning of 2022. This advanced air defense system is expected to play an important role in strengthening Ukraine's ability to counter air threats such as missiles, drones, and aircraft. Despite the massive aid to Ukraine, Russia still maintains a certain advantage over Ukraine due to its larger artillery arsenal, inventory of aircraft and manpower, and the Russian economy survives in part thanks to its energy exports. The continuation of massive aid to Ukraine, especially after the presidential elections in the United States of America and the economic problems in Europe, will also be in question. The missile's top-mounted fixtures on the fuselage suggest it can be launched from airborne platforms, such as fighter jets, extending its tactical and technical capabilities. The missile spans about 2 meters in length and has a compact turbojet powertrain, with a thrust range of 400 to 600 newtons. The fuselage is assembled through aviation-grade metal fabrication using rivets, and the missile's external mounted engine simplifies assembly and space usage. The Army of Drones project, a joint venture between Ukraine's Defense Ministry, Ministry of Digital Transformation, General Staff, State Service for Special Communications, and United 24, is visible on the missile. The launch method remains unknown, but the government claims that unknown features will become apparent over time, and that Piccolo can compete with some Russian cruise missiles in terms of performance. The Piccolo UAV missile, costing around $1 million, is a significant development in Ukraine's missile development program since the Russian invasion in February 2022. The system, named Palianytsia, is a ground-launched UAV missile that Ukraine has developed to strengthen domestic production. The system's capabilities, including its ability to strike where Russia is not expecting it, have been revealed. The development took around 18 months, and it incorporates a solid fuel booster for initial acceleration and a jet engine, allowing it to achieve significantly higher speeds compared to older Ukrainian long-range drones. This increased speed offers better evasion against anti-aircraft guns or manually guided missiles, but does not protect against advanced air defenses. The increased speed also reduces the time to approach the target, compressing the enemy's response window. Ukraine's technology minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, described the system as a game-changer, as it can target about 250 Russian installations, including airfields within the range of a U.S. supplied attack. Mass interrupting these scattered Russian bases would hamper Russian logistics, allowing Ukraine to launch localized counter-operations. The extended range and features of these weapons also provide political benefits for Ukraine, allowing them to corner Russia militarily. However, the safety of the elite ring shielding the Kremlin regime is in question, as air defenses alone may not be enough. The Ukrainian armed forces have built an effective indigenous military sector, evident from advanced weapons like the SAPs and missiles Piccolo and Pelion. These new Ukrainian platforms could shift the war's momentum as the conflict escalates around aerial supremacy. Air power, airstrikes, and defense systems are crucial elements in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Russia's massive air fleet and reliance on sheer numbers have led to a significant shift in Ukraine's Air Force's defense. The country's fighter jets, particularly F-16s, have taken on the role of heroes in the war. A Ukrainian pilot shot down 6 missiles in a single mission with an F-16, demonstrating the progress made by the Ukrainian Air Force in opposing the Russian invasion. That Ukraine's military sources claim that the pilot had first-rate instruction in and could apply Western-style fighting techniques. The pilot's fast response revealed the extent of the Ukrainian Air Force's capacity in this situation. However, Russia contests this claim, arguing that the F-16 alone cannot bring about peace, but will significantly assist in air defense operations and Russian cruise missile interception. The Ukrainian Air Force is now more autonomous and adaptable, with pilots becoming more autonomous and adaptable. While command and control used to be akin to the Russian method, experts argue that Russian military encourages pilots to remain ground-dependent, making them more proactive on the ground. The acceptance of the F-16 shipment in Ukraine was an adventure, especially for the acceptance of the aircraft. Ukraine waited with considerable expectation while the West demanded F-16s from the NATO arsenal. The battle against one of the world's largest air forces with outdated Soviet-made fighter jets severely hurt the Ukrainian Air Force. Despite the United States and other allies urging Ukraine to hand up the aircraft, Ukraine declined to approve the transfer. Ukraine has acquired F-16 fighter jets, which have been a significant asset to its air defense plan. The pilots were killed during a Russian attack, but the pilots' accomplishments in combating Russian missiles and their ability to outwit the Russian Air Force have been praised by Ukrainian military leaders. The westernization of Ukraine's military could support the nation's aim of joining NATO, which is yet unclear. China has dominated the hobby drone market, offering highly capable systems at affordable prices. This dependence on Chinese-made parts is particularly worrying due to the growing geopolitical rivalry between the West and China and Sino-Russian cooperation in Ukraine. China is now restricting exports of components and materials critical to drone construction, which is already affecting Ukraine. Kyiv has recently started component production, but this will be a long process and will require European support. The increasing involvement of civilians in warfare is a phenomenon that Europeans must deal with. While engaged citizens can be a positive force, they can also contribute to polarization, be exploited by opponents, or create pressures that can hamper international cooperation. Lessons learned from a war on European soil should be treated with caution, but can reveal weaknesses and larger changes in war tactics. A war on European soil is a critical moment and opportunity for Europeans to learn the right lessons for their defense. Ukraine has made important breakthroughs in the transition period between drones and cruise missiles, such as the Piccolo and Ruta missile UAVs. These small missile systems are cheap, relatively easy to manufacture, and powerful enough to destroy high-value targets even deep inside enemy territory. Ukraine has developed a cost-effective cruise missile called SRAM Beta, which could reach Moscow. The missile can fly at 250 miles per hour with a range of 125 miles and is expected to take at least a year to produce enough to threaten Russia. However, the Kremlin fears that the transmitter could reach Moscow and that the Ukrainians possess this missile. The Trump administration could push for a ceasefire and negotiation with Russia, which could demand that Kyiv limit its domestic missile production. If Ukraine makes progress on this issue now, it will make it easier for the Kyiv government in the future. The Ukrainian government supports the production of any missile that can fly, offering private manufacturers a 25% profit and drone manufacturers the same opportunities. However, scaling up industrial production requires attracting capital, buying sensitive equipment from abroad, and ensuring security. The Ukrainian government has budgeted around $1.4 billion in 2024 to purchase and develop weapons domestically, 20 times the budget before Russia's full-scale invasion. Most weapons are now purchased from privately owned factories, taking over a sector dominated by state-owned companies. A stronger private sector could help eliminate inefficiencies and make it faster for factories to produce weapons and ammunition. Kyiv has not done a bad job since the beginning of the war, bolstering the country's defenses through the Comeback Alive Foundation. About 80% of the defense industry is in the private sector, reflecting Ukraine's advantage in bringing Russia, a country with far greater military resources, to its knees. The Russian army has lost 90% of its tank stocks in Ukraine, including modern types like the T-90 TRT and vehicles like the 60T, 64, and 70. Russia's plan to produce 149 M tanks in 2024 was one of the most important ways out for Putin this year. However, unexpected Ukrainian missile and drone attacks disrupted all Russian military production plans, leading to a rapid depletion of tank reserves and a record number of tanks. The Russian Air Force also learned its lesson from the invasion campaign in Ukraine, losing a tenth of its fleet after more than 2 years of fighting in Ukraine. The Russian Air Force has been overshadowed by the Western air defense systems sent to Ukraine, showing that Putin's aircraft have not reached sufficient capability and are still powerless against NATO. The Russian Navy, like the land and air forces, has so far failed to deliver what the Kremlin wants. Most countries only need one navy, all its assets normally supporting each other in a war. Russia needs 5 navies for the Black Sea, Baltic Sea, Atlantic Pacific, and Caspian Sea, as NATO's political geography makes it difficult for them to cooperate in a major war. The fate of the Black Sea Fleet is more critical than the other fleets, as it depends on the influence of Turkey and Greece and the attacks of Ukrainian forces against the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. Since the start of the war, the Ukrainian armed forces have sunk or decommissioned 28 of the 47 naval assets currently on active duty in the Russian Navy in Crimea. In order to accelerate this negative process for the Kremlin and win the war in the process of integrating drones and cruise missiles, Kyiv is outpacing Moscow, proving that quality is more important in this war. Ukraine has developed new technology weapons, including strike drones, missiles with increased range, stealth ballistic projects, and cruise missile hybrids. The country aims to become Moscow's worst nightmare with its new domestic missile project, the Tactical System Stepson. This small, fast cruise missile offers a hybrid design combining drone and conventional missile functionality. The first images of the system appeared on New Year's Eve, and military expert, pilot, instructor, and retired colonel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Roman Sweden, stated that if operating at full capacity, it could target the Kremlin in a matter of minutes. The missile system can operate at ranges of 300 to 500 kilometers and, in some modifications, up to 700 kilometers. The first and main target seems to be Moscow, developed in response to Ukraine's need for affordable, high-accuracy, long-range strike abilities. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that Ukraine has successfully tested its first indigenous ballistic missile, but the development stage and deployment against Russia remain unknown. The Kremlin fears that Moscow might face dozens of slaps and missiles in its airspace. And if Russian air defense units fail to intercept these missiles, Kyiv will hesitate to seize the opportunity. Ukrainian forces have delivered the first batch of the Piccolo drone missile hybrid, a drone-like weapon that combines features of a drone and a missile. The Piccolo drone missile has a significantly longer range than Western-supplied cruise and tactical ballistic missiles in Kyiv's arsenal, flying as far as 700 kilometers with speeds up to 700 kilometers per hour. Its autonomous guidance places about 20 tactical aviation airfields of Russian aerospace forces on alert, allowing it to reach major sites like Miller over 7, Zulika, and Engels. Capabilities made the operation an air-land robotic mission. The Ukrainian side has become a master of national drone development and has received new Shield, artificial intelligence, AI drones, such as the MQ-35 of BAT drones from the United States. The V-BAT drone, which weighs 56.5 kilograms and can stay in the air for up to 10 hours, demonstrated its autonomy in difficult conditions and demonstrated resistance to electronic warfare. The drone can take off and land vertically in a 4 by 4 meter area. Russia has shown relatively weak capabilities in drones since the beginning of its large-scale aggression against Ukraine. Despite investing heavily in developing and acquiring all types of military unmanned aerial vehicles, the Russian armed forces initially faced a serious shortage of reconnaissance, unmanned aerial vehicles, after only a few months of war. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has led to a significant deficit in unmanned aerial vehicles, with the Kremlin falling behind in the battle. Russia has used Russian-made loitering, munitions, and or-ion combat drones, but these have not met the expected efficiency. The Russian government has also purchased Chinese and Iranian-made drones, but these have not improved the battlefield due to the lack of necessary electronics and technologies. The Kremlin's political economic system, defense industry problems, and limited resources have contributed to the Kremlin's fall behind in the unmanned aerial vehicle battle with Kyiv. Russia's unmanned aerial vehicle development is fraught with problems, as Moscow tries to distribute limited resources among too many projects and control developers. The embargo imposed by the West on supplies of critical technologies, components, and industrial equipment in Russia has not been enough. The Ukrainian side has managed to outmaneuver Russia in air and naval drones, as well as in kamikaze drones. If Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin fails to find a solution, the Ukrainian army may win the war by completely wresting air dominance from Russia. Ukrainian defense intelligence has received a significant increase in operational capability thanks to the American charity Help Heroes of Ukraine. The Hazard-specialized unmanned and aerial system and a high-mobility multipurpose wheel vehicle were delivered as part of its New Year's donations. The Hazard system, developed by Warhawk, includes 10 kamikaze drones, launch equipment, and a composite materials control console. These drones are virtually invisible to enemy electronic warfare systems and ensure stealth, making them ideal for precision missions. Ukraine aims to confine the Russian army to the battlefield with its robot army, using machine gun-equipped ground drones and kamikaze aerial drones. This groundbreaking military operation underscores Ukraine's use of increasingly sophisticated robotic systems and highlights the evolving role these technologies play on the modern battlefield. Ukraine's defense technology innovations have played an important role in Kiev's war effort since 2022, with the government supporting grassroots efforts through initiatives such as the Brave One Defense Technology Cluster. Ukraine plans to deploy tens of thousands of robotic ground vehicles along the war's 1,000-kilometer front line in 2025, performing functions such as laying and clearing mines, delivering ammunition and supplies, and evacuating wounded soldiers. That Ukraine's rapid pace of innovation is crucial to stay ahead of Russia, which heavily invests in robotic systems and drones. The country's efforts to implement AI technologies are expected to advance in 2025, but concerns remain that these new robot armies could reduce killing barriers and increase the potential for future conflicts. Ukrainian defense technology developers are primarily interested in saving the lives of their compatriots and defeating Russia's invasion. Small arms and advanced systems are redefining drone systems, with small-caliber weapons being effective against drones. Mobile air defense teams equipped with the EU have been effective in intercepting Russian Shahed-136 drones, while shotguns offer an inexpensive option for infantry. The German-supplied Jihad self-propelled aircraft gun has proven particularly effective against loitering munitions. Programmable ahead ammunition provides high lethality against small and fast-moving drones, making it an ideal middle layer in a multi-layered air defense system. Modern air defense missile systems have proven effective in long-range interception and protecting high-value targets, but their use against low-cost drones highlights their cost inefficiency. The conflict in Ukraine has highlighted the need for a layered defense approach, where advanced systems address high-altitude and long-range threats, while small-caliber weapons and systems like Jihad address low-altitude, close-range targets. Integrating drones and counter-drone systems into a unified command and control network enables faster response times and more efficient resource allocation. The Ukrainian experience highlights the need for a comprehensive, multi-layered defense strategy against aerial drones, FP systems, and loitering munitions. Small-caliber weapons offer a cost-effective frontline solution. Anti-aircraft systems provide a critical middle layer, and modern missile systems act as a high-capacity shield for long-range and high-altitude threats. The rapid innovation cycles in the drone market are a result of the creativity of Ukrainian, Russian, and Western engineers. European countries have procured around 100,000 quadcopter drones in 2023, but these systems may be largely useless. Instead, the European defense industry should be positioned to scale up production and modify systems and processes as needed. Building modular systems with interchangeable components should be encouraged.